This video will be a note-for-note breakdown of the guitar and bass parts that appear in the bridges and choruses of the song. A tab sheet of each part will briefly be displayed after its respective analysis. A final demo of all parts combined for the bridge will appear a little over halfway through the video. A final demo of all parts combined for the chorus will close out the video. The tuning used in this video and on the record is standard E and 440 wavelength calibration. We will start out with the bridge on guitar 2. The bridge is going to be 8 measures long. We'll begin the first measure by placing the third finger on the G string at the 4th fret. We'll pick this note down on 1 and let it ring out as a quarter note. On 2, we're going to take the middle finger and place it on the B string at the 3rd fret and pick this down. This will ring out through 3 as a half note. On 4, we're going to place the first finger on the same string at the 2nd fret and pick that down. This is a quarter note. It'll actually be tied to a quarter note on 1 to start the next measure. So with a 4-count lead in, this is what the first measure is going to sound like. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And now we've reached the second measure. The first finger should still be on the B string at the 2nd fret, and this note should still be ringing out from the previous measure. Okay, it's actually going to be tied to 1 of this measure. So on 2, what we're going to do is place the middle finger on the B string at the 3rd fret and pick this down. It's going to ring out through 3 as a half note. And on 4, what we're going to do is go with the first finger to the G string at the 2nd fret and pick that down. This is a quarter note. It is tied to the first quarter note of the next measure. So with a 4-count lead in, let's play the first 2 measures in sequence. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And now we've reached the third measure. The first finger should still be on the G string at the 2nd fret, and this note should still be ringing out from the previous measure. It's tied to 1 to start this measure, a quarter note. So on 2, what we're going to do is take the middle finger and go to the B string at the 3rd fret and pick this down. That's a half note that'll ring out through 3. On 4, what we're going to do is shift the middle finger down a half step in pitch, so it's still on the B string, but now at the 2nd fret. That's picked down. This is a quarter note tied to a quarter note to start the next measure on 1. So then the 4th measure, the next measure, we're going to play 3 more quarter notes. On 2, we're going to place that first finger on the G string at the 2nd fret. Notice that we're leaving the middle finger locked where it is. That's picked down. On the 3 beat, we're going to place the 3rd finger on the high E string at the 2nd fret and pick that down. And on 4, we're going to go back to the B string and pick that down. These last 3 notes are going to ring together to create a chord. So with the 4-count lead in, let's run through the first 4 measures in sequence. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And now we've reached the 5th measure. We'll begin by placing the 3rd finger on the G string at the 4th fret. We'll pick this down on 1 and let it ring out as a quarter note. On 2, what we're going to do is take that first finger and lay it across the B and high E strings at the 2nd fret. We're barring those 2 strings. We're actually just going to pick the high E string here for now, and that's going to ring out through 3 as a half note. On 4, we'll pick the B string down. This is a quarter note that's going to be tied to another quarter note on 1 to start the next measure. On 3, we're going to go with that middle finger to the B string at the 3rd fret and pick this down. Okay, this is another half note that's going to ring out through 3. We'll finish up the 6th measure by going with the pinky to the high E string at the 5th fret and pick that down. This is a quarter note tied to a quarter note to start the following measure. So with a 4-count lead in, this is what the 5th and 6th measures in sequence are going to sound like. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And now we've reached the 7th measure. The pinky should still be on the high E string at the 5th fret, and this note should still be ringing out from the previous measure. It's tied to 1 here as a quarter note to start this measure. So on 2, what we're going to do is take that middle finger and go to the same string at the 3rd fret and pick that down. This is a half note that's going to ring out through 3. On 4, what we're going to do is we're going to shift down a half step in pitch with that middle finger on the same string to the 2nd fret and pick this down. This is a quarter note, and it's tied to a quarter note on 1 to start the next measure. So to finish up the last measure, the 8th measure that is, we're going to play 3 more quarter notes. We'll start by placing the 1st finger on the G string at the 2nd fret, that's the 2 beat, we'll pick it down. On the 3 beat, I'm going to lift up the middle finger and we're going to pick the open high E string. And notice that I'm leaving the 1st finger locked there as I do this. We want to try to let these notes ring together as much as possible. We'll finish up the measure by going back to the high E string with that middle finger on the 2nd fret and picking this down on 4. Okay, that's a quarter note. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to give you a 4-count lead in and play measures 5 through 8 in sequence. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's run through all 8 measures in sequence just one time. I won't count aloud as I play. I'll just give you the 4-count lead in. 1, 2, 3, 4. The lead part that you just learned on Guitar 2 is actually a keyboard part that was applied to the guitar. There are some occasions where this can be done effectively to fill in a missing detail from the music and make it sound like 2 distinctively different guitars playing complementary roles, adding quality to the band and value to its sound. This part appears twice in the song. The first appearance is at 39 seconds. The second appearance is at 1 minute and 27 seconds. This is all 8 measures of the lead fill played on Guitar 2 during the bridge. Guitar 1 is going to follow a 4-measure long pattern that gets played twice, equaling 8 total measures. We're going to begin playing a B minor chord. We're going to take the 1st finger and put it on the A string at the 2nd fret, and then we're going to lay it down flat and bar the rest of the strings below that, or I should say above that in pitch. We'll take the 3rd finger and go to the D string at the 4th fret. We'll put the pinky on the G string at the 4th fret, and the middle finger will go on the B string at the 3rd fret. On the 1st beat of the 1st measure, we're going to have a quarter note rest. So we're going to strum down on 2 and let this ring out through 3. Okay, that's actually 3/8 of the measure. And we're going to follow that with 3/8 notes picked up, down and up, counted, and 4 and. So with the 4-count lead in, this is what the 1st measure is going to sound like. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, and 4 and. Okay, and the rest of the measures are going to follow this exact same pattern. Measure number 2 is going to be the exact same chord. On measure number 3, we're going to go to a G major chord. In measure number 4, we're going to go to the A major chord. So with a 4-count lead in, this is what our 4 measures sound like. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, 2, 3, and 4, and. Notice on the quarter note rest on 1 to begin each measure, I'm taking advantage of that rest to change my chords. With a 4-count lead in, let's run through all 8 measures in sequence just one time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 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 1. This is all 8 measures on guitar 1 during the bridge. We're going to play these 4 measures in sequence until we reach the yellow highlight at the end of the 4th measure. That's a repeat sign, which sends us back to the repeat sign at the beginning of the 1st measure. We're going to play these same 4 measures a second time in sequence to give us our 8 measures. Also notice the 2nd measure. There's a diagonal line with a dot above it and below it. What that means is to play this measure exactly like the previous measure. And the last thing I'd like to point out is the symbol at the beginning of the 1st, 3rd, and 4th measures. What that is a quarter note rest on 1. At the very beginning of this part of the song, there's actually going to be a 3rd guitar present. All it's going to do is play a B5 power chord, and that's where the 1st finger is the root note on the A string at the 2nd fret. We're going to pick it down on 1, and it's going to sustain out until it slowly fades away, just like this. The bass guitar is going to follow a 4 measure long pattern that gets played twice in sequence, equaling 8 total measures. What we're going to do on each measure is play 2 notes to accent tightly with the bass drum. On the 1 beat of each measure, we're going to pick the note downwards and let it ring out for the first 5/8 of the measure. This is a half note tied to an 8th note on 3. On the and beat right after 3, we'll pick that same note again upwards and let it ring out for the remaining 3/8 of the measure. This is an 8th note tied to a quarter note on 4. We're going to follow the root notes of the chords played on guitar. We'll start out with the 1st finger on the A string at the 2nd fret. This is a B note. This will be the first 2 measures. On the 3rd measure, we go to the G note, and that's with the middle finger on the low E string at the 3rd fret. On the 4th measure, we go to the open A string. In measures 5 through 8, we just repeat that process. I'm going to give you a 4-count lead in and play through all 8 measures in sequence just one time. Keep in mind that the music is being played at twice the pace that the song was started out at. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, and 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 4. This is all 8 measures on the bass guitar during the bridge. We're going to play the first 4 measures until we reach the yellow highlight at the end of the 4th measure. That's a repeat sign that sends us back to the repeat sign at the beginning of the 1st measure. We just play these same 4 measures again in sequence. The chorus is going to be 16 measures long. We're going to follow a certain count and picking pattern for pretty much the bulk of these 16 measures. We're going to start out working off of a B5 power chord, and that's where the 1st finger is the root note on the A string at the 2nd fret. And the first 2 measures are going to be exactly the same. What we're going to do here is on the 1 and 3 beats, we're going to play the power chord with a downward picking motion, let sustain out as a quarter note. And on the 8th notes in between, which are the beats 2 and 4 and, we're going to play the root note of those power chords with a palm mute. We're using all down strokes here. So what I'm going to do is give you a 4-count lead in and play the first two measures at a much slower pace than you'll hear it on the album. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 1, 2, and 3, 4, and... Okay, now we've reached the third measure. We're going to go to a G5 power chord. That's where the first finger is the root note on the low E string at the 3rd fret. We're going to repeat that pattern for this measure. On the 4th measure, we're going to go to the open A5 power chord and do the same thing. When we get to the 5th and 6th measures, we're going to go back to the B5 power chord. And on the 7th measure, we're going to play an open E5 power chord. So with the 4-count lead in, I'm just going to run through the first 7 measures at a much slower pace than you're going to hear it on the album. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 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 1, 2, and 3, 4, and... And now we've reached the 8th measure. What we're going to do is play 4 quarter notes here and do a fill, and these will be all down strokes. The first is with the first finger on the low E string at the 2nd fret. Okay, on the 2 beat, we're going to go with the pinky to the A string at the 5th fret. On the 3 beat, the 3rd finger goes to the A string at the 4th fret. And on the 4 beat, we play the open A string. So this is what we have. Just for the 8th measure, that is. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so with a 4-count lead in, let's do the first 8 measures of the chorus, and we'll do it slower than we do it on the record. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 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 1, 2, 3, 4. The next 6 measures are actually going to be the same as the first 6 measures. All we need to cover now is the final 2 measures. We're going to fill using triplets. Okay, they're called triplets because for each downbeat there's actually 3 of them. In short, there's 12 per measure. For the first of these 2 measures, we're going to work off of the open E5 power chord. And for the last measure, we're going to work off of the F-sharp 5 power chord, and that's where the first finger is the root note on the low E string at the 2nd fret. Okay, we're going to use alternate picking here. And the thing that's kind of awkward about this is if you're doing it right, you're picking up on the 2s and 4s. Okay, this is one of those rare exceptions where you can't pick down on the downbeats. So with the 4-count lead in, what I'm going to do is play the last 2 measures much more slowly than you hear it on the record. And I'll try to count aloud as I do it. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a... Let's run through all 16 measures in sequence just one time. I won't count this aloud as I play because it's too fast to do so. I'll give you the 4-count lead in and try to play this at more of an album-like pace. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is all 16 measures on the guitars during the chorus. We're going to play the first 8 measures until we reach the yellow highlight at the end of the 8th measure. That repeat sign sends us back to the repeat sign at the beginning of the first measure. We'll play the first 6 measures again on the second pass through and then skip directly to what appears to be the 9th measure on paper. That's actually the 15th measure. Okay, what that is the second ending. The bass guitar is pretty much going to double the rhythm guitar part note for note. We're not going to use palm muting. And another thing that we'll do slightly different is on the upbeat or the end beat right after 2 and 4, we're going to pick upwards. So the picking pattern will be down, down, up, just like this. 1, 2, and 3, 4, and. Okay, also on the 8th measure, the guitar is going to do a fill there. We're not going to play that fill, but we're going to accent with each of the notes though, with the F sharp note, where the first finger is on the low E string at the 2nd fret. These will be all down strokes on 1, 2, 3, and 4. Other than that, we're pretty much going to follow the guitar. So what I'm going to do is I'll give you a 4-count lead in and run through all 16 measures. And I'm going to do this at a much slower pace than you'll hear it on the album. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 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 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 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 1, 2, and 3, 4, and. The chorus appears at 3 intervals in the song. The first appearance is at 1 minute and 6 seconds. The second occurs at 1 minute and 56 seconds. The final appearance is at 3 minutes and 4 seconds. This is all 16 measures on the bass guitar during the chorus. We're going to play through the first 8 measures until reaching the yellow highlight at the end of the 8th measure. That's a repeat sign. It'll send us back to the repeat sign at the beginning of the first measure. We'll play the first 6 measures again, and we'll go from the end of the 6th measure directly to the 9th measure on paper. Okay, what that is the first and second ending. We played the 7th and 8th measures and the first pass through, and when we went back to the beginning, we skipped over those and went directly to the second measure on the second pass through.